Before we begin tonight's program, we want to acknowledge a legacy of displacement of Indigenous Mohican people on the lands upon which Williams College is built. Williams College resides on the ancestral and spiritual lands of the Mohican people. We need to pay respect to the Mohican elders, past and present, by acknowledging our troubled history. Thank you, and thank you for joining us for tonight's program, which is one of a year-long series of events commemorating the 200th anniversary of the founding of the Williams College Society of Alumni. The Society is the oldest alumni association in North America and quite possibly the world. Alumni are spending this bicentennial year not only celebrating and grappling with our past, but also examining our present and imagining our future, which is a perfect tie into this event, our theater department project, and the time capsule we'll be creating. A few reminders before we get started. Everyone was automatically muted upon entry, but you'll have the ability to unmute when we get to the interactive portion of the program. Please remember to use good Zoom etiquette and unmute responsibly. We encourage you to use the chat function as a space to engage in community and share any comments or reflections you have throughout. Please note that we will be recording today's session for posterity and as part of the time capsule project. And with that, I would like to invite Professor Shanti Pillai to say a few words about this project and its conception.
Thank you, Vanessa, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your time with us this evening. And a special thanks to the Alumni Association for hosting us and giving us this opportunity to tell you about this wonderful project that I hope by the end of the evening you will also share our enthusiasm for. Well, you probably know that we are all from the theater department. And theater is an art form where we have the privilege of making dreams real on stage in front of people. We get to put forth into the world in 3 dimensions our fantasies, our hopes, and our dreams, and our visions in our imaginations. So if you'll bear with me for a moment, maybe you can close your eyes for just a moment. And imagine yourself to be in the theater. And we all know that exciting tension of the crowd coming in. Maybe you see people you know in the lobby and say hello. You make your way to your seat. The rustle of the crowd dies down as the chime rings, indicating the performance is about to start. And that magic moment when the curtain goes up and lights come on, and there are actors who move in certain ways, who speak in certain ways and say wonderful things. There are sounds that we hear, maybe music or other kinds of sounds. There are all kinds of ideas that we see. We have an understanding of what we see in relation to history and problems and social issues and aspirations. And now just think for a moment all of the highly specialized kinds of training and education that go into making what you see there before you possible. Well, it won't be any news for me to tell you that we are in a pandemic, and COVID, of course, has very much affected the practice of the performing arts and also education associated with the performing arts. And so this is the situation that we found ourselves in here at Williams College in our theater department at the beginning of 2020, which is almost about a year ago, but seems, I don't know, like yesterday or maybe eons ago. But it was the situation we found ourselves in, and we thought, what can we do to bring the theater to life, to continue the mission we have in our department, to continue to allow our students to develop in the ways that they want to and they need to, so that they can go out into the world eventually and become tomorrow's theater makers and theater thinkers and theater audiences. And that was basically the impetus for the start of our project, which we are calling Today and Tomorrow. And Today and Tomorrow also has in its inspiration a desire to understand the relationship between theater and performance and time, theater and performance and history. And we're in this unusual moment, and wanting to know, what does it mean to represent this moment in time? What is it to create history through the art of performance, and know that that history will resonate or be rejected or be inspiring or be confusing for people in the future who may not or who may share our perspectives. So our project today and tomorrow is basically a digital time capsule. And in this project, we are creating a series of short digital performance pieces, which will eventually be displayed first at the end of April on a web page to which you will all receive information in time that will invite the viewer to experience those pieces in the order that they so choose. And then it will all go away and it will reappear in some form or another in 2041, at which time it is very much our hope that it will be something that will prompt art students in that generation, in that time, to create artistic responses, seeing this work that we create now almost as a kind of prompt for performances that will take place in the future. Our work has proceeded with students, a wonderful group of students, and also a wonderful group of professional artists. And we have divided our labor into small groups that we are calling pods, student pods, mirroring the organization of the residential experience currently at the college during this pandemic time, in which students live in small groups, face-to-face groups that they call pods. And each pod has been assigned the task to really reflect deeply and begin to create performance that engages the question of the relationship between Williams and the broader world. So we have a pod that is investigating what this time period of 2021 has been like, specifically in the context of Williams College. We have a pod that is looking at how Williams is situated within the broader region and what the experience of 2021 has been like in the broader region. We have a pod that is tasked with thinking about the college in relation to the broader context of the United States as a nation. And then, of course, a pod that is thinking about Williams College in relation to the much bigger picture of the planet. So I'm going to take the opportunity now to very proudly, because I'm always very, very proud of all my students and so grateful to be able to work with them. I'm going to take the opportunity to introduce one of our stage managers of those pods. And I think I'll go in the order in which I just described them. We'll begin with Pod Williams and with Nadia Atkinson. Please, Nadia, thank you.
Hi, it's so lovely to see everyone tonight. I'm Nadia. I use she, hers pronouns, and I'm an off-cycle senior, so class of 21.5. There's more of us this year. And I am a theater and English double major, and it's been a pleasure working on this project with everyone. I'm a part of Pod Williams, as was mentioned, with Raven Jan and Christina Zhu. And we are tackling representing the lives of students, faculty, and staff members on campus and off during the pandemic. And from stop animation to puppeteering, we're experimenting with the best ways of encompassing the emotional turmoil that this year has brought to campus, and what it's like to have so much of our college experience be upturned in a very surprising way that I don't think any of us thought would happen a year and a half ago. And I will send it over to Chris.
Thanks, Nelia. Hi, I am Chris Van Loo, class of 23. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the SM of Pod Region. So from the beginning, Pod Region, we were always interested in capturing the thoughts and feelings about both this year, 2021, and also the future from those who live in the Williamstown area and also the greater state. And so we made a survey in order to collect these thoughts and feelings, both anonymously and non-anonymously. And the people who filled out the survey could respond however they chose, although we gave them some guiding questions in case people wanted some direction for their answers. And this survey is still open for those who wish to fill it out. And the results of this survey will be printed out, hard copy, and stored in the Chapin archives until 2041, when they will be reopened. So our 6 chiclets are all sort of focused on this survey and collecting and seeing what these answers are. For example, we have a chiclet where we give our own answers to the questions in the survey interview style, and we have one where mysterious hands interact with these answers from the survey being printed out. And we even have one where pirates roam the halls of Sawyer Library in order to drop the survey answers off at the Chapin archives. So all 6 chiclets combined aim to provide viewers from the future, 2041, with the necessary clues in order to extract the survey responses from the Chapin archives and to see what people 20 years prior had to say about their present and their future. I will now pass it over to Vanessa.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. As a reminder, again, I'm Vanessa Silva, and I use she, her pronouns. And I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Pod USA, which is composed of myself, Petra Hines, Ryan Krantz, and Kara Haddon. When we first began working on this project, our pod sat down and had a really long conversation about all of the ways this past year has sort of amplified already existing issues in the US. So though the pandemic itself has forced the community as a whole to come face to face with unprecedented consequences and staggering loss, a lot of these problems that are now being faced aren't unique to this year or to this pandemic. The inequality and injustice that we have seen as a result of the pandemic and the way it has disproportionately affected BIPOC Americans has simply highlighted the imbalance of privilege within the US and made those who are lucky enough to not have had to think about such things beforehand aware of them. And so this conversation led us to a theme that is now running throughout all of the pieces we are making, which we are like fondly calling chiclets. And this theme is juxtaposition. Much of what has happened this year has sort of felt like opposite ends of a binary. And this feeling of opposition and division has inspired each of our pieces, beginning with what we're calling our silhouette chiclet. This piece features shadow puppets depicting both the Capitol riots and the Black Lives Matter protests, as well as news coverage audio from these historical events demonstrating the clear opposition between them. Our Scream chiclet features juxtaposition between a serene video time-lapse of the Hoosic River, with a recorded version of the national anthem sung by Petra, and layered with screams we are sourcing from people all over the nation. Each of our other chiclets riff on the same theme, but embody them in dramatically different ways. Our social media chiclet depicts the carelessness many have demonstrated in their response to the pandemic. Our paint chiclet touches upon the loneliness with which people have had to endure everything that has been thrown at them throughout this year. Our clone chiclet embodies the horrific nature of unsafe COVID-era parties when so many are suffering losses. And our flag chiclet embodies the nature of the political turmoil the US has undergone throughout the year, as our podmates will all be physically fighting over an American flag. We're so excited to be creating art that we feel is important in the current moment, and hopefully will have an important legacy as part of this larger project and time capsule. Thank you for your time, and I will now pass it over to Minsa.
Thanks, Vanessa. Hi, everyone. I'm Minsa. I use she, her, hers, and I'm in the class of 21. I'm a prospective economics and theater major. I'm a part of Pod Globe, which is composed of John and Danny and Lord. So in the beginning of the devising process, we started with a question of what it means to be Pod Globe, because there is a fundamental impossibility to represent the vast experiences and identities in the global society with just 4 Williams students. So eventually we turned to abstraction and unintelligibility of for our 6 chiclets. As a result, we have devised chiclets that are very movement oriented instead of text heavy like traditional plays or theatrical works, because we thought that movement have some sort of universality that the audience regardless of their cultural background or the language they speak can perceive and feel. Then we were also interested in the interactions between different societies, nations, as well as the past and the future and the present, obviously. While we are living in an unprecedented time, we thought that there are things or themes or ideas that have been around us for quite some time and have been formed by a long intertwined history, or could be perceived as mundane and ordinary, such as the seasons, childhood games, the borders, or the international power dynamics and languages. We explored what are unique to our time, as well as what are the similarities between our time and past and future. And as a result, our first two chiclets are composed of slow hand movements that express the potent silence and absence of winter. Then our two chiclets explore the idea of borders through the materials of sticks and strings to express its arbitrary nature, how they keep us apart and also connect us, and the particular struggle of crossing borders, especially these days. And our fifth chiclet employs the game of telephone, which is a childhood game I assume everyone enjoyed, to explore whether there's an absolute truth. And the last one brings together various languages to create a voice river. Yeah, our pod are so excited to move on to the final stage of this devising process and this time capsule project.